Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Marketing on Tap. This is my mate, Danny Brown. I am Sam Fiorella. Today, we got a special treat for us, not so much for you, but for us. We are live on site today, which is a little bit unusual. Well, it's not unusual for us to be at a tap room at a brewery, but it is for these episodes, it's a little bit unusual. So I'm pretty excited today.
Yeah, so we're at Salter Street Brewery in Toronto, East End. And it's been open since 2017. They've just spent their first anniversary this year. And their core beer is a Pilsner. It's like a good German-style Pilsner. But today we're trying I believe we're trying, Amy? The Copper Pilsner. Yes, it's the Riverside Copper Pilsner, which is the core beer.
Salter Street.
And thanks to Amy that just poured it. So,
yeah, cheers. I'm going to try this one first before we get into our topic today. Very nice.
Yeah, you can really taste the hops coming through, and it's really crisp for this time of year as well.
Oh yeah, and perfect for the fall.
We'll be finding out more about the Pilsner later when we speak to Amy and the team, about the brewery for sure.
Oh, I love this. Thank you. Cheers. Thanks, Amy. Oh yeah, why have we not been here before?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that's.
Okay.
I'm gonna. This is bad because we have to go to work
okay,
after
so
this. We want to talk about today's topic, airline industry. This is one that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. For those of you that know me, probably know why, but I've hesitated because of I don't want this to turn into a rant about the airline industry. Those of you that know me know that I've gone through some harrowing ordeals on airlines. Everything from having my luggage dropped out of the plane to ending up in a city on the opposite side of the country when I wasn't expecting to be there, to having some guy watching anime porn next to me on a flight across Canada. So, I mean, I've had everything happen to me. And so I've got some very specific issues with airlines and their marketing and the overall customer experience. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And the reason, Danny, that I want to talk about it is because of an article that I just read this week. So it was very timely for this podcast. And that is, the article said that people really don't care about an airline's customer experience. They don't really care about the problems they've had. When surveyed, they said they'll still go back to that airline because it was cheaper or because it was more convenient. Right? Then you contrast that with some recent articles that I've read about some airlines like Ryanair and other low cost discount airlines in the UK are struggling because all they market to is low cost without any extra service. So there's some conflicting results and studies out there that I want to talk about. So the premise that I think maybe we can focus on today is, can an airline market solely on low cost flights? And is customer experience really relevant today? And what can we learn for other businesses?
Yeah, it's hard because you've got the big guys that have got just such a monopoly on the airline industry, your United Airlines, your American Airlines, etc. So to these guys, they probably don't care about, the whole experience. But then on the flip side, like you say, you've got the $99 flights or the £99 flights in the UK, £35 flights, bare basics. You're essentially just powering the airline yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like really hard to actually know where the customer experience really comes into, because you see all the horror stories.
Yeah.
And yet these companies are still making profits, flying their planes, getting customers to buy tickets.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. That's what I don't understand about this this recent study that said people will still go back regardless of the bad experience. I know I won't. But then again, maybe just because I've been flying for so many years, I'm very, very particular. The study that I read said that people will go back simply because what they're looking for is a low cost, because flying has become very common. More people are flying today than ever before, but it is also very expensive. And so the airlines right now, I've gotten to the point where instead of giving you the best experience, remember the old days, the golden days, they say, of traveling, where you got to dress up and it was like an experience. It was like almost going to some formal event. Now, people are very casual. They're out in their PJs when they're getting onto an airplane in their flip-flops. They just want to get there fast and cheap and quick. And there's obviously there's a market for that because discount airlines are popping up left, right, and center. But then when you take a look at what's happening right now in the UK, we always talk about the UK for some reason. Ryanair just released a profit warning saying that they're probably not going to make a profit. And then their a competitor, their Primera Air, which is I think a Dutch airline, they basically just shut down service, leaving people stranded. They're also a low-cost carrier over there. And so if low cost, the problem with low cost is you can't go up.
Right.
You could only go down from that point, right?
Yep.
You're basing your entire business on low cost. That means you're going to cut into your margins, especially when you have strikes like Ryanair has had with their pilots and their flight attendants and the rising costs of fuel. So what can an airline do? Again, then we'll talk about maybe how does this apply to other industries, but what can an airline do to differentiate itself when you're so tied into tight margins?
Well, I don't know when it comes to, I mean, if you compare it to like the stack 'em high, sell 'em cheap retailers and how many of these guys go out of business, and they only appear sometimes even once a year, for like seasonal stuff. But if you look at the retail industry, is the airline industry going to go that way too? And I think to your point, I mean, one of my favorite airlines is Porter because they give you good prices and a great experience. And they show the way forward for airlines where it does come back to the customer. You've got spacious leather seats, you've got complimentary food, complimentary drinks, Wi-Fi, the works.
Yeah.
So you're thinking if these guys can do it, pretty sure the bigger guys can do it. I know they're flying further and more people, but they still should be able to afford it.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting? I love Porter Airline as well. I fly it now to New York, frequently to Chicago all the time now. But the thing is, they're not the cheapest airline though.
Right.
They don't advertise. They advertise this is the civilized way to fly. You can get an espresso when you get there. I mean, the lounges are kind of like you don't need to have a card to get into the lounge. The whole waiting area is a lounge for anybody that has a ticket. So they're basically saying, well, we're not. They don't say they're the cheapest. They don't say they're the most expensive, although often they are the most expensive. But it is very much convenient because of its location at the Toronto Island Airport. But when you go there, you feel, I don't know, you feel important.
Right.
That's how I feel when I walk into their waiting area. When I walk into the plane, I feel important. And so I'm prepared to pay a little bit extra because I feel good when I leave there despite all the stress and stuff, right? So definitely looking at that. You look at another example, which I love, is I don't like the airline, but I love what they do, and that's Southwest.
Okay.
Southwest, I think, started in 1970, 71, something like that. When you talk to their executives and about their success, the one thing they'll all tell you is that their success is focusing on their employees, right? The founder famously said, if you focus on the employees and your employees are happy, they'll make sure that their customers are happy because they're happy. Right. And if your customers are happy, they'll come back and that takes care of the shareholders, right? Whereas most businesses focus on the shareholders. How do we drive shareholder value, right? We hear that all the time from our clients. So this was really interesting. What I love about what they do and their success, if you take a look at their NPR score, their Net Promoter Score, they've got the highest of any other airline out there. Yet they're a discount airline.
Right.
But they're the most recommended amongst regular flyers. But what they do is they actually focus on employees. They got a loyalty program for their employees.
Right. As opposed to just the flyers.
As opposed to just the flyers. And if they look at, if you engage in some excellent customer service, you get rewarded with, points or whatever that the program is. So I thought that was brilliant, focusing on your employees and letting your employees then take care of your customers, which is kind of fascinating. Have you ever had a chance to fly Southwest?
I did. When I was coming back from Vancouver, I think. I'm thinking of WestJet. No,
that was WestJet, yeah.
WestJet.
Well, I don't know if
the West in it.
For those of you that don't fly Southwest, one of the things that they do is they don't give you, they have multi-class seating. So they don't have like a first class, a business class, economy class. They don't even give you a seat. You get a ticket.
Right.
What gets you onto the plane, and then you get like certain boarding times. So, boarding zone 1, boarding zone 2, boarding zone 3. And so if you're on boarding zone 1, that you get on first, so you get lined up. And then you pick whatever seat you want. You can sit at the back, you can sit at the front seat, you can sit at the window, aisle. I hate that because for me, that just drives more stress.
Right.
Because I've got to like fight for my seat as soon as I get onto this. So I purposely avoid that airline. Yet, it works for a lot of people. They've got a really high Net Promoter Score. But again, the difference there, I think, is focusing on their employees, which I was a really interesting thing. one of, looking at other industries, I think one of the things I want to sort of take this away from the airline industry, because they've definitely gone to a cost-based model as opposed to a customer experience-based model. And even those that promise great customer experience don't really give it. And I think some of those articles or statistics that show people will buy your flight anyway, so why should we really care? I don't know. But what can we, looking at whether it's technology industry, media industry, manufacturing, doesn't really matter, other industries, what are we seeing right now because of the power of the internet and people going online and giving recommendations and giving referrals? How important is it to shift back to customer experience as opposed to a price strategy?
I think long term it's key. I mean, you can give away flights, discount, Apple iPods, etc. Though Apple don't really need to discount anything. But yeah, I mean, you can only go so far with the discount model or the cheap model.
Right.
And it will come back to, okay, now I've only got, because as more companies go bust, then you're getting less choices. So you will choose the one, I think, that looks after you at the end of the day. If you've got a choice between paying $100 and getting treated like cattle,
yeah,
or paying $150 and actually having a nice comfortable seat, a coffee when you arrive, etc.
Yeah.
An area to test out the latest electronics, then that's who you're going to go for. I know personally I've moved like service providers for my internet because of the experience with the previous one. I want to try something different, and I'm paying a little bit less, which is great, but I'm trying something different because the experience wasn't there. So I think in industry there's going to be a plateau where you run out of discounts, run out of options,
right,
and it has to come back to how you treat the customer.
That's actually a good point. I switched cable providers about 2 years ago. I went from Cogeco to Bell because they had a better price. So I went for price just to try and save myself $40 a month or $35 a month. So I did it. The service is okay, like in terms of the actual streaming service that I'm getting to my house, but their mobile app sucks. Their 5 TV, I'm really unhappy with.
Yeah.
And anytime I call, I don't get the friendliest of people calling. So now I'm regretting doing it. To save that $40, I'd rather have spent that $40, but go back to having better customer service. Now, I mean, I think you can probably find fault with any cable. They're probably one of the most hated businesses or types industries in the world, cell phone providers and cable companies. But I think that today, and I was having this conversation with my Uber driver coming here today, which is really interesting. The idea that we can now rate each other, like the Uber drivers rate us and we rate them. The conversation I was having with the Uber driver today was, isn't it interesting how this concept of social democracy, I guess, or the democratization of brands, which is where, we actually own it and we, based on what we say about each other and about the brand online, it makes us have a tendency to be happier or at least kinder to each other.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first thing I thought when I go into this Uber is, I got to make sure that I'm nice to this person because he's going to rate me,
right?
And it's going to affect whether another driver wants to pick me up when I request it. And I'm sure he's doing the same thing because he wants a 5-star rating, he wants a tip. We were talking about cabs, and every one of the cab rides I've had in the last year have been the exact opposite experience. They weren't necessarily rude to me, but my conversation in that cab is always they're bitching about the weather, they're bitching about politics,
about Uber,
and they're bitching about Uber. That's the first thing that comes out of every cab mouth. And in fact, there was a cab right in front of us that had a negative Uber sign behind them. So I found it really interesting. So in terms of customer experience, focusing on creating happy customers, you can pay the cheapest price for an airline. But if by the time you get to your destination, you are stressed and you're complaining, that's what you're doing on social media.
Yeah.
You're posting negative comments as opposed to happy comments, right? So I agree with you in that case, that social media is really giving brands, I think, the impetus now to say, we've got to focus on creating some kind of a differentiator, right?
Well, you see some of them. I like the way that some of the brands are going with the snark in their response.
Yeah.
And burning, people that are complaining. And I think there's only certain ones that can do that and get away with it. But you can see in the reactions of the people around that their followers grow, their brand awareness grows, and people start to actually defend the brand.
Let's talk about that a little bit because yes, somebody said to me, Actually, I was watching a clip online about an Ellen. Ellen has recently come out and started her comedy again. So she's doing stand-up comedy. And one of the comments that I read about her comedy was, it is so nice to see a comedic performance that doesn't even have a slight hint of negativity and snark and maliciousness, because everything right now is so divisive in our politics, in our day-to-day conversations, in our social media, in our relationships. I know a lot of brands are moving towards that snarky response, but is it the right thing?
Right.
Yeah, certain brands can only get away with it if it's part of your ethos. But is that a trend?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a trend, but I think definitely it's because there's a level of snark that most people recognize. You know what? They're having fun.
Yeah.
You know, at your expense. They're not making fun of you. They're having fun with you. And I think that's a key differentiator. And I'd rather have that than this whole crappy brands be human ethos that all social media gurus dictate that brands should be. I'd rather have them being honest as opposed to human, you know, or faux human. So I think I wouldn't like to see American Airlines, for example, try, you know, be snarky about a 3-year-old's burst appendix. That wouldn't fly, you know, not pun intended.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think there are opportunities for brands, you know, to actually have a bit of fun and say, you know what, we're not perfect, but are you? That kind of, you know.
Yeah, let's have some fun with it.
Yeah.
But I think part of that fun is being human. I agree that this being authentic, being human is overplayed. Yeah. And very few people know how to do it properly. They're trying so hard that they're inhuman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, so to speak, because they're just trying so hard to be so genuine. All right, so we're getting the signal. Thanks, Stephen, for our bell again. Last call, although this will not be my last call here today after we're done. I'm really enjoying this beer. Final thoughts on this issue of price versus customer experience. Where do you hang your hat as a business moving forward?
I think, and I was going to bring this up, I'll bring it up really quickly here. I think the brands need to go back to how they started. So if you look at the psychology and marketing of airlines, there's 3 examples here. So American Airlines, their tag is, we know why you fly. Kind of seems now we don't know why you fly because, you know, we don't really care if you're trumped into a tiny carriage, your kid's got appendix or whatever. So JetBlue, our promise. So it's all about, you know, it's about reassurance. You know, if you fly with JetBlue, we're going to get you there safely, comfortably, a good price and good service. And then Southwest Airlines is fees. They actually have it back at the guys as to how much fees and add-ons you pay as a customer of other airlines. So I think if you go back to these original, you know, brand taglines and ethos and the psychology that you wanted for your customers, that's, for me, that's a start.
So for me, the final takeaway, I've got 2 takeaways, in fact. The first is go back to what Southwest was doing with focus on employees, right? That's been a recurring theme in a couple of these, be it from an influence marketing standpoint, they're your best influencers. From a customer experience standpoint, they're the ones that are going to deliver that experience. So make sure that they're trained and encouraged and feeling appreciated. So definitely focus on customer experience, but you got to start with your employees. The other thing that I want to sort of leave as a takeaway, regardless of the industry, but I want to use an airline industry. One of these low-cost airlines that I've seen do really well is that they didn't talk about price. Everybody knows they're a low-cost airlines. They can see it in their price, but that's not their advertising. Their advertising is about the destinations.
Right.
They want to be seen as a gateway to your dream destination or to your best business experience if you're traveling for business. They've created an app that allows you, if you have the app open, you can scan Instagram, look for a killer destination that you want to go to. You can screen grab it, and then the app will give you the best way to get there using their airline.
Oh, that's cool.
So this is the way you can do it. So again, a little bit of outside the box thinking. They're pulling in the millennials and, you know, this Instagram generation, you know, and this whole idea of, I love what Instagram is doing because look at these great photos. Oh, I really want to be there. So they're really taking advantage of that. So if you do want to be the low cost provider, if that's what it is, that's great. But don't advertise you're the low cost provider. Right. Advertise to your customers' aspirations, to their values, to what makes their life better.
Yeah.
And the low cost, they'll see it when they compare prices. They're going to be drawn to you longer term based on that versus low cost. Because if your price ever comes up, you're still that aspirational brand that they want to be part of, right? So that's the one takeaway that I would give brands, regardless of the industry that you're in. And so with that, I want to say thank you. Thank you, Danny. Once again, thank you, Amy, for the beer, and to Salter Street Brewery. We are not sponsored by any brewery, so they were just kind enough to allow us to sit here and drink their beer today. So that's fantastic. We're definitely going to be joining these. If you like these podcasts, please subscribe. If you like the vlogs, if you're watching us as opposed to listening to us, please hit subscribe on our YouTube channel or let us know. Put some comments down below. And we'll be happy to engage with you on any of these. So until the next time, next week, thank you very much, everybody. Cheers to everybody. Cheers, mate. Hey, there we go. I'm already drunk.